that you said his disciples to one another, has any man brought him something to eat? And Jesus said unto them, my meat is to do the will of him that sent me and to finish his work. Say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then comes the harvest? Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white already to harvest. And he that reaps receives wages and gathers fruit unto life eternal, that both he that sows and he that reaps may rejoice together. Herein is that saying true, one sows and another reaps. I sent you to reap that whereon you bestowed no labor. Other men labored, and you are entered into their labors. In our recent evangelism conference, we were challenged to begin an emphasis in our church of 30 days of evangelism. And I accepted that challenge as your pastor and agreed to lead our church in an evangelism emphasis. But we're not going to do a 30-day emphasis. We're going to do a 50-day emphasis starting tonight, culminating July the 2nd. During this time, we're going to share the gospel, also do everything we can to help you be prepared to share your testimony and your witness with others. And we are looking forward to having a number of folks baptized on July the 2nd, which will be called New Life Sunday. So you're going to be challenged to share the gospel with your friends and your family and your neighbors. And we're going to have a Friends Sunday where we're going to challenge everybody to bring friends to church with you and share the good news with folks that day. So tonight it's sort of an introduction to this emphasis. And I want to use the story of the woman at the well to encourage us to focus on the harvest. That's the title of the message tonight, focus on the harvest. This is exactly what Jesus told his disciples to do when he said, lift up your eyes and look on the field. They're white already, the harvest. So let me share with you tonight some very simple procedures in focusing on the harvest. First of all, purpose to go where they are. Jesus was ministering with his disciples in Judea, which is southern Judah, and he was going to go to Galilee because that's where he started his ministry, and there's where a lot of disciples were, and he had a regular routine of going around in the synagogue sharing the gospel. And so he needed to go from Judea to Galilee. But look at verse 4. Something interesting is interjected here by John. He said that the Lord needed to go through Samaria. Now, if you're familiar with the map of Israel, Judah is in the south, Galilee is up here, and Samaria is between them. If you know anything about Bible history, when the Jewish nation, the northern kingdom, was taken off into Assyria, they ended up sending back some of their people to settle there, and they interbred and were known by the true Jews as half-breeds. And so it was not the common thing, it was not the norm for the Jews to go through Samaria. They would go around through the Decapolis, around past the Jordan River, and come into Galilee from the northeast. And so Jesus and his disciples had to go through Jerusalem, through Samaria from Jerusalem to get to Galilee. And Jesus had planned this trip. They didn't really want to go, but they were with him, and so they went where he wanted to go. But he had a plan and a purpose. Folks, there was somebody who needed Jesus that was going to meet him at the well of Sychar, and he had a divine appointment to meet that woman at the well. Now, it's a widely known story all over Christian circles that this woman was converted out of a very sinful lifestyle, but it was all because Jesus purposed to go where she was. And so let me remind you of the very first word of the Great Commission. What is it? Go. We have tried to turn that around and say, y'all come. I've even had deacons in churches in the past tell me when I try to get them to go witness, they know where we are. If they want to come, that's up to them. God didn't say, tell them to come. He said, you go where they are and share the gospel with them in that area. You see, there's nothing wrong with inviting folks to come. And on Friend Sunday, we're going to encourage you to do that. But that friend or neighbor or family member needs a personal application of the gospel to their life. And they get that on a one-on-one interaction, not just sitting in a congregation. So, we need to be ready to visit with those and share the gospel that God brings our way. In a day's time, you could run into a number of people. I was pastoring in Memphis, and my son-in-law, who married my oldest daughter, his dad got saved after his oldest son was drowned in a duck hunting accident. And he really got serious about the Lord and began to witness to everybody he saw. His name was Ron Jackson. He's in heaven now. But he would run into people. And I remember a night, this guy came up to me and said, I met Ron Jackson at the post office today, and he invited me to church. And I was going to sit with him. I said, well, you go sit right over there. He'll be here in a minute. That's his pew. And usually he had several people, sometimes 2 pews full of people that he had invited. And so we need to be open to share with folks that we meet in our day-by-day activities, but we also need to make effort to go see someone that we know needs the Lord, and we need to go where they are. Number 2 is plan to engage them in meaningful conversation. Look at verses 7 through 9. When Jesus got to the well, he sat down, and before long, this woman came along, and she was fixing to draw water, and Jesus asked her, would you give me a drink of water? That was a very simple question, a simple request, but he broke some barriers in order to do that. Number 1, he talked to a woman, which was not considered proper in that day. If you weren't related to her, and if she wasn't someone you knew, you didn't talk to a strange woman. That was considered improper for her to engage in conversation with men. So he broke that barrier in engaging a woman in conversation, but he broke an even bigger barrier because she said, now, you're a Jew, and I'm a Samaritan, and you guys don't want anything to do with us. Let me tell you, racial and ethnic issues have not just crept up on us lately. They've been with us throughout history. And they were given bad names. They were considered half-breeds. And some of them were called Gentile dogs. And folks looked down on them. If you were an Orthodox Jew, you just didn't have anything to do with that low class of people. But here Jesus went over that barrier and began to talk to her. And her being a Samaritan made no difference to him. And what he did was treat her as a Jew. When you engage someone in conversation, it's important what you say, but it's even more important how you say it, because people read your body language. And you can say a lot of things in the way you approach people and turn them off. They can tell if you look down on them. They can tell if you disapprove of them, or they can tell if you judge them by their appearance. We have a lot of people today that look a little different, and they've chosen to do different things, wear their hair a new color, or to have tattoos all over, or wear body piercings, and any number of ways. But let me tell you, all that's trivial matter. God's looking at the heart. And these people can tell if we disapprove of them, we will not be given the privilege of sharing the gospel in a meaningful way. So,
How the initial conversation goes determines if you're going to get to share the gospel. So you need to show genuine interest. You need to begin to engage them in meaningful conversation, and then allow the Lord to take it into a deeper realm. The third thing is present eternal values to them. Verse 10 and then verse 13 and 14. She didn't know why he in the world wanted to talk to her. Jesus said to her, he said, if you knew what God wanted to do in your heart, and who it is that's talking to you, you'd have to be right now and give me the water. And the woman said, well, I understand that you don't even have a bucket to drop down and get you water. You don't have to be well very deep. And how in the world are you going to get the water? And Jesus said, well, if you drink of this water, you'll be thirsty. When I got the water, that's going to be like a well inside springing up into everlasting life. And so it's easy to talk to people about the weather. Do you agree with me? It's even easy to talk to people about sports. It's even easy to talk to people about current news happenings like killings in Texas and any number of things that would be on a person's mind when you meet with them. But we must bring in eternal values to the conversation. So notice how Jesus did it in verse 10. He said, if you knew what God wanted to do in your life right now, dear lady, and if you knew who was talking to you, you'd ask me and I could give you living water. See, he took the concept of asking for a drink of water and moved it into a spiritual value. Remember what Jesus said in John 7:39, I think it is. He ever is thirsty, let him come to me and drink, for out of his innermost being shall flow rivers of living water. He was talking about the peace that comes when we know Jesus Christ. So what he did was he created in her a thirst for living water. Here he is thirsty and wanting a drink of the water from the well, but after a few minutes of talking to her, she said, I want that water that satisfies from the inside out. What he knew, he didn't. You see, Jesus knows a lot of things about people. But what he worked on was something that every one of us knows. Deep down inside, every one of us has a desire for peace. We have a desire for happiness. And a lot of people are good at telling you that. But when we're honest with ourselves, when we're honest with other people, we have to admit, no, I'm not happy. I'm miserable. And I need peace. I want that living water. So then, number 4, point out the need for a new life. In verses 16 through 18, Jesus said, go get your husband, bring him, let's talk with him. And she said, well, sir, I don't have a husband. He said, I know, but you've already had 5. And the one you got now, you're not married to. What did Jesus do? He was telling them their lives. Let me tell you, the answer to this woman's problem was not to find a new husband, not to marry the one she's living with. She needed something that was much deeper, and something that was more vital than a physical relationship. You know what the problem is with most people today? They think they need a minor makeover. I know I need to get a quicker drink here. I need to start treat my wife better. Folks, let me tell you, if we don't get new life, those makeovers only last a few days. And a lot of people have tried it. They've tried, start doing better and promising they won't go back to their drinking or whatever. But folks, let me tell you, the answer is new life being changed from the inside out. You can do all you want to try to conform the outside to acceptable social standards. But the problem is you've got to start on the inside, and the Lord will work on the outside as you life. So, number 5, preach Jesus to them. When it comes down to it, the only thing that can change a person's life is a personal relationship with Jesus. Church can't fix it. Preacher can't fix it. Baptism can't fix it. Trying harder can't fix it. Only Jesus can do it. And so, the good news of the gospel is the coming of Jesus to die in our place to give us. You remember when Philip, one of the early deacons, he was a preaching deacon, and he was having a revival in Samaria, and God said, now leave this place and go down, and there's a guy riding in the chariot that needs you to tell him what's on his heart. And let me go to Acts chapter 4 and read that to you. Excuse me, Acts chapter 8, verses 29 through 35. Listen to what it says. Then the Spirit said to Philip, go near and join yourself to this chariot. And Philip ran to the chariot and heard him read from the prophet Isaiah, and he said, do you understand what you're reading? And he said, how can I, except some man should guide me? And he desired Philip that he would come up and sit with him. And the place in the scripture which he read was this, he was led as a sheep to the slaughter, like a lamb dumb before his shearers, so opened he not his mouth. In his humiliation his judgment was taken away, and who shall declare his generation? For his life is taken from the earth. And the eunuch answered Philip and said, I pray thee, of whom does this prophet speak, of himself or someone else? Then Philip opened his mouth and began at the same scripture and did what? He preached unto him Jesus. The Bible is the story of Jesus. And we need to open it wherever we are, but get to Jesus as quick as possible. The truth about what Jesus did is what will change a man's life. Here's what Jesus said in John chapter 12, 30 through 32. He said, when I am lifted up, I'll draw all men unto myself. And folks, if we lift up a preacher, if we lift up a church, if we lift up a style of music, we're going to miss getting someone to Christ and a changed life. We've got to lift up Jesus. They've got to come to know him in a personal way. So we need to preach to them Jesus. So you start with a conversation, can I have a drink of water? But then you get to the point of letting them know that Jesus Christ is and then the next thing, the sixth thing I want to share is put your heart into your sharing. Listen as I read, if you will, from our text in verses 31 through 34. In the meanwhile, his disciples came to him and said, Master, eat. And he said, I have meat to eat that you don't know anything about. And his disciples, they asked each other, well, you think somebody came and gave him something to eat? And here's what Jesus said, my meat is to do the will of him that sent me and finish the work. What do you feed on? What gives you the most satisfaction? What can cause you to even be willing to skip a meal? Jesus told his disciples to share with someone more important, more meaningful to me than eating a meal. I got meat to eat and you don't know anything about it. One of the most wonderful things is to be present when somebody cries out to Jesus to come into their life. Say, I remember I used to take my children with me out visiting. My son Stephen was very bashful. young boy. This was before he became a teenager. We went to several houses. Different people gave their life to Christ that night. Boy, was he pumped up. Man, this is great. I like this. Let me tell you, seeing someone saved, satisfied, filled with joy that you can get. So he said, my need is to do the will of my Father who sent me. In other words, instead of being so consumed about what I was going to do today, he was concerned about who I was going to share with me. Who am I going to tell them about the good news of the gospel? He said, my Father sent me here. The Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which is lost. That's why I'm here. And when he was sharing with someone, that was more important to him than having a meal. And he said, I also want to finish the work that he sent me to do. What did he say when he was on the cross, his last words? It is finished. There was a lot of things that tried to get him away from the cross and try to get him to come down and show his power. But he came down to pay for our sins and to offer us eternal salvation. And he finished the work. So we need to share from our hearts. You know, if you're sharing with somebody, you're in a normal conversation, and you're trying to move into a spiritual issue, don't change from a casual conversation to a memorized in presentation. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, you're going to end up sharing the gospel and certain scriptures with folks, but they want it to come out of the flow of your life. It's called lifestyle evangelism is what it's called. It means it's just your normal life. As you go, preach. That's what Jesus told his disciples. As you go, preach. Go about your daily life, doing what you normally do. When you find somebody that needs a witness, share with them. Okay. My question to you is, what do you feed on? What do you spend the most of your time thinking about? Wouldn't it be wonderful if for the next 50 days, everybody in our church kept thinking about who they want to share Christ with and how they're going to share and praying that they'll come to know Christ? Wouldn't that be an awesome experience? Then I've got one other that I want to share with you. Prioritize the sharing of the gospel. In other words, realize how important it is. Don't put it off. Listen as I read verses 35 through 38 again. Say not ye therefore that there are 4 months and then comes the harvest. Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes, look on the fields, they're white already to harvest. He that reaps receives wages and gathers fruit to eternal life, that both he that sows and he that reaps may rejoice together. Herein is that saying, true, one sowed, another reaps. I sent you to reap wherein you bestowed no labor. Others have labored, and you are entered into their labors. Here's what he said. We're in the harvest field with other people. Whoever you meet, someone has already been sharing the gospel with them. Some sow the seed. Somebody else comes and waters the seed. And then some very fortunate person gets to be there when that seed germinates and they receive Christ. I don't save anybody. God does. I'm just working with him and his people, sharing the gospel. And don't get discouraged because a person doesn't pray to receive Christ. You either plant the seed or you water the seed. And we're in this process of harvesting the field together. But we need to prioritize sharing the gospel, not taking life. Because if we're not careful, we keep putting off. You know, I need to go talk to especially family members. You know, I need to talk to my brother. And you're late already. You should have done that harvest. Let me tell you what I believe. I don't think we may not have 4 months. We may not have 4 weeks. We may not have 4 days. It's wrong to push back the most important thing you can do. We need to realize harvest is upon us right now. They are truly white to harvest, and there are people whose lives are wrecked and ruined all around you. You don't have to go far to find somebody who needs Jesus. They are all around you if you'll just open your eyes and become sensitive. A guy who was an entertainer on Bourbon Street, he got saved. He was in there for all week. And he's giving testimony. He said, every time I go home to the family, some kind of vacation or holiday, I learn it every time. Because my wife said, no, listen, please don't preach to everybody the whole week. And make everybody uncomfortable. All right, I'll do my best. I'll try my best not to hear people's words about me. He said, here I am, sitting over there. My father-in-law was lost. Going to hell. Got to be. Husband was there as well. Here I am watching. She's no bank on TV. And I'm doing my best to keep from worrying him and bothering him. All of a sudden there's a shootout, 4 of them got killed. I said, I wonder how many of them were saved. I read the whole thing. If you got it in you, it's hard to keep it inside. Right? You just concerned about salvation. Remember what Jesus said, the harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers few. So in the next 6 weeks, I want to challenge you and me to focus on the harvest. And I believe July the 2nd is going to be an exciting day. This church is not we're planning down to make it a special day. So, who do you need to start praying for right now? Maybe you need to come to the altar tonight and have the courage to do what you can plan to do. Wait till you become an expert, you'll never share with you. But God told us the other night, you be saved, you may not be saved. And I want to challenge you. Next 6 weeks, focus. I want you to bow your head.